Hey folks, it's Marvin Cash, the host of The Articulate Fly. On this episode, I'm joined by my old friend Gustavo Hiebaum of Set Fly Fishing. Gustavo shares his passion for Argentinian fly angling, how he and his team built one of the best outfitters in South America, and we take a deep dive into all things golden dorado. If you've ever wondered about chasing golden dorado on the fly, we have you covered. But before we get to the interview, just a couple of housekeeping items. If you like the podcast, please tell a friend, and please subscribe and leave us a rating and review in the podcatcher of your choice. It really helps us out. And I'm excited to bring the business and consulting skills I've developed off of the water to the Articulate Fly community. If you're in the industry and feel like you're leaving money on the table or the day-to-day grind of running a business is killing you, let me help you find a more profitable and enjoyable path in the sport. Head over to www.thearticulatefly.com/consulting and let's start our conversation today. Now, on to our interview. So, Gustavo, welcome to the Articulate Fly.
Well, Marvin, thanks for having me, and thanks for all the buddies listening. It's a pleasure for me to have the excuse of talking fly fishing.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it, and we have a tradition on the Articulate Fly. We like to ask all of our guests to share their earliest fishing memory.
Well, that goes way back early. I mean, I think, really like before actual fishing, I was here in my hometown, but vacation. Back then, I was only 7 years old and was, standing in the front of a store, and I was begging my father to get me into, buy me some fishing gear. But the curious story, I really don't know where I got the fishing bag from, but my father was not an angler, and he never has been. I tried after later in the years to introduce him, but anyway, I have that desire of get myself into fishing and connect with, and so we were here in San Martin on a family vacation. I really begged my father to get that gear for me. Only 7 years old. This long story short, a week later in a several week vacation here in the area of the Lake District in northern Patagonia, I was sitting on a dock in the Lake Nahuel Huapi in the town of Villa Langostura, which is only a couple of hours south of San Martin. I was sitting on this dock, and it was these big, gigantic, like silver rainbows that always cruised underneath this dock. There's still today, you can see these fish. Probably all rainbows are ranging 5 to 6 pounds, and there were like half a dozen of them just cruising around deep water on this. And I got from my fathers of my friends that I got as a gift a couple of flies. I remember it was a big Cursier nymph, and I had really a spoon gear to cast with my little rod that I got there. And I decided I'm gonna let this nymph to go down. I didn't know it was a nymph back then. It was just the fly I got gifted, and before my vacation, and I put it down, and and I kind of jingled 10 feet depth that that nymph, and until finally one of these monster rainbows took my fly, pulled all the line out of this reel. It was a plastic reel, one of that cheap combos. We're talking about 35 or 38 years ago, right? I mean, the reel got destroyed, the fish broke off, and that was it. And I was caught for the rest of my life.
Yeah, that's very neat. So when did you kind of start fly fishing full time?
Well, it's that was 7 then, and we continue after that. My father got kind of momentarily into fishing because he saw he watched me so excited, so he got into a little bit to go with me. We got a little fancier gear, and we came back for like a couple more years, 3 years into doing some spinning gear with spoons and trying to catch some trout. But as soon as I started that, I started to see more and more of the here and there scatter, because back then it was not a lot of fly fishermen in Argentina. But I started seeing few enough to get me really, really trigger interested. That's what I want to do. And so we have that same guy that give me, originally that fly. I got that fish into my into my little rod, kind of helped my father to find me my first fly fishing gear. Again, was not a lot available. Not many people knew much about fly fishing in Argentina back then. But sure enough, we got into a little tackle shop that they have the basic of some fly fishing, and I got me a rod, a reel, and the guy a guy that we still in touch. Back then, he was young, a guy in the young 20s, and he took me to the park in my native town is Bahia Blanca, in the Atlantic coast out of Buenos Aires province, and he got me a couple of hours of casting instructions, and I was launched to get into fly fishing. My next vacation down to Patagonia, I spent every single light day hour of my vacation with the family trying to get few fish on fly fishing, right? So that's kind of I was only 10 years old.
Yeah, that's neat. And so, obviously it's kind of consumed you at this point. When did you kind of get the guide bug and decide that you really wanted to become a fishing guide?
Well, that drug that it was the first, what I just, told you, it got keep on growing, right? Like significantly. And I was a teenager, and I could only think about fishing when I was spending my days in school in my native town on the Atlantic coast. I could only count days, typically the first week in December when the summer break start. We came with family for 2 or 3 weeks, typically till Christmas or New Year's, and we spent almost the whole month of December in the area here, exploring, camping, uh, and by that time I knew I wanted to do something that allows me to live fishing the most possible and to be on the water the most possible. And I saw there was people that dedicated to take other people fishing, and it was guiding, and it was kind of a starting to grow thing. So yeah, I probably was 15 or 16 when I said to myself I wanted to spend my life, taking people fishing, and I don't know how it's gonna work or how this is, but I'm gonna find out. And that's self inspiration into my desire of staying near the water that early in time in life, right?
Yeah. And so how did you break into the guide game? You're 15, 16 years old. You're like, I want to do this. How did you get your first job?
Well, it's it's another interesting story. Kind of go together with the start of the early stages of what the company is, because as soon as I got off high school, I was in college, but I had enough time in the summer break to continue to come to the area, and I wanted to get a job as a guide for that summer break, and I went and knocked like a lot of doors and talked to a lot of people. The truth is, the industry of fly fishing and guiding, and especially international travel destination, because back then the market of local anglers that would hire a guide was almost non-existent, right? So the only alternative to be guiding were coming to Argentina in search of that trip of lifetime. So you know I wasn't really getting any opportunities. It was a way smaller industry of what's today, and so I told myself, okay, if I'm not gonna, I want to be a guy, and I want to do this seriously for my life. So I said I'm gonna start getting my own clients so I can be able, I'm gonna be able to guide. And and that's kind of the beginning of everything. And I was my first days of guiding career, it was for the early stages of what we do right now, already getting my own clients and trying to set up a trip for people that were internationally visiting Argentina for getting into fly fishing. So
Yeah, that's neat. So you basically had to build your own job, right?
I create that that own shop for me because it was just not the opportunity out there, right? I mean, it's so different today. Like it's the kids that at first got a whole information available, and they can go and learn as quick as they want, and the effort they put is everything is out there to learn. But then they right away, early in life, they get guiding opportunities, and they can get a great job very young. It was way different back then. It took me it took me a long time to build like enough days to be able to go out and have enough clients to be guiding for long days in a row, right? So to say.
Yeah. And interesting too, right? Because it sounds like you didn't, it's not like people that are here in the States that maybe go out to like Wyoming or Montana or Colorado and they have all these people kind of showing them the ropes. It sounds like you kind of had to teach yourself how to be a guide.
Well, yeah, again, it was not a lot of people doing it here, and it was certainly a lot more unprofessional scene of what it was today. The truth is, when I got, the first clients, I wanted to take them into fishing. I really didn't want know or have any formal training of how to do that. It was just a long road of learning from their own experience and listening actually to a lot of my clients to see how things supposed to look like or what the service it was the desire expected to get for an angler coming for an outing. And so yeah, it was a long curve of learning process that that it was accompanied with a lot of desires to do it right. So it was a big motivation of getting the job done right. And yeah, so then I in the later on, I was so fortunate that I was starting to receive like really professional guides that I was able to look at what they do and start to learning from there how a professional guide should work, what's expected. And so yeah, a lot of listening, a lot of desire to want to do that for life. And yeah, and then a team shop too, because soon enough, since we were working with groups of people coming, I start with other fellows, some of them that they're still part of the business, that we kind of start to build knowledge together. And but basically a lot of listening to our own clients, right?
Yeah, very, very neat. Yeah, you were saying someone who's still with you. I think Gonzalo, I fished with him. Gosh, it's been more than 15 years ago.
Yeah, exactly. Well, Gonzalo, it's just about to turn 40 years, and he started with me in the company when he was 21, right? And so it's been like 19 years of working together. In my mid 20s when I met him, so he's kind of a living history of what the company has been, and he's like a young brother for me.
Yeah, that's very, very neat. And so, all this knowledge you gain from doing all these trips and learning from your guests, what do you think the secret is to being a good guide?
Well, I still repeat that to my team all the time, and when I interview a person that is a candidate to become a guide, first that you got to do is to love being out there, and to be in the nature, to be in the river, in the water, and then to just to plainly love fishing and be fishing your passion, right? And then the second, but equally as important, you gotta love people. You gotta be able to enjoy, see people achieving a progress or learning something new, this new trick, or getting his first fish on dry fly. I mean, if you don't gratify for somebody that's doing that the first time, and it makes you to feel like you're doing it again for first time, you're in the wrong business, right? I mean, that's that those two together is what it makes that you are guiding for many years, and it's not just a job, and it gets you get just burned out of doing it over and over, right? I mean, that's the passion and enjoying it, and being first a passionate person that love being out there fishing and fishing through the arms of your client. Yeah, if you don't get that feeling, you can do it really professionally, but it's gonna be always a benchmark apart from anglers that just do it as a job, right? I mean, the guys that just do it as a job, right?
Yeah, and you can always tell when you fish with those people too. You can always tell the difference.
Yeah, I always tell my guys, you really want to have more desires of catching that fish than your own client, right? I mean, you're really gonna, if the guide is looking at the clock to finish the day instead of telling the client, let's try one more cast in that pool, it's something wrong, right? I mean, also I mean, it doesn't need to be that serious too, right? I mean, I tell my guys all the time too. If I don't hear laughs on that boat that is next to me, it's something wrong on that boat, right? I mean, so it's all about having fun, and you gotta keep on focus on that. I mean, and it will also different. Thanks God that everyone will find the happiness of a fishing outing in a different way, right? But that's our job as a guide, right? To find out what's gonna make our client happy, our guest, to really enjoy the full experience. I mean, and trying to recreate, right, or to deliver and be a facilitator of that good day on the water.
Yeah, absolutely. And Gustavo, what do you think is the biggest misconception people have about the life of a fishing guide?
Well, it's the easy thing if people we get tell like, wow, how beautiful your office is. I mean, you truly don't have any any concerns in life because you're doing what you love to do. Like any shop, right? I mean, it has this up and down, and you get all kind of people. Thanks God, and we are fortunate to make a lot of friends out of this and make and meet some fabulous people. But some days are long. Some days you gotta put up with bad weather. We hear the way we guide in Argentina because the consumption of an international travel destination. The people come like from Saturday to Saturday. You start guiding on Sunday. You fish till Friday, and then it's a day off typically in today's schedule for our guys. But Sunday you get another full gang of guys that are ready to roll again, all rested, and this goes on for like 6 or 7 months, right? I mean, so it could be tiring, but you really I mean, if you have the passion, it is a great job for life, right? I mean, we have some guys on the team that they're in the mid 50s and for 30 years, and they're still passionate about it, right? I mean, you gotta find the good balance of scattering or sparsing your season and not overdo it, so you still are able to enjoy that day by day.
Yeah, absolutely. And so, kind of, after you started guiding, when did you start Andy's Drifters?
Well, it's as I told you, my first guiding clients were already in the beginnings of the company. We were originally we were under a different name, and not only till like 2009, I think when not when I met, because I met Kevin Howell like a couple years before that, but in 2009 I make a proposal to Kevin to become partners, and together we kind of bring up the name of Andy's Drifters and started with the continuation of a operation that was started originally in 1999, right? So we were already 10 years of history when we started with Andy's Drifter as a continuation of that original company and the early guiding days, right?
Yeah, that's neat. It reminds me, I'm going to have to go grab the fishing hat to get the original name of the company. It's been so long. I thought I had forgotten that Andy's Drifters was the second iteration of your company.
Yeah. The original name of the company was Southern Cross Outfitters when we started, right, 99.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's all coming back to me now, everything, booking the tickets and everything. Um, and so for people that have never been to Patagonia, you want to kind of give them a feeling for kind of how the trout fishing is different from, say, fishing here in the United States in Montana or Wyoming.
Well, it's a phrase that has been since I was a kid. I listened to it, but I believe it's a fact, right? I mean, many people have said through the years that uh, Patagonia, especially northern Patagonia, is very much like it was Montana 50 or 100 years ago, right? I mean, it's a lot of great water, great dry fly fishing, side fishing opportunities, plenty of only wild trout that populate all our rivers, big rivers that you can float, small like pocket water, medium-sized rivers. We have Great Lakes, we have Spring Creek, so a lot of variety of water, but way less people around here. Even when in the last 30 years, it's a continued growing number of anglers. I mean, compared to to the Western United States, we still get into a day float section here in one of our famous and easy access rivers like the Chimuwin, the Alumineo, the Kushankura, and we still get upset when it's a couple more boats putting in the same stretch we're going to float, right? I mean, so that's just to set a standard that still the fishing pressure for many places around the world, here in the most famous area around San Martin of fly fishing in Argentina, still the presence of people and the development of the area is still a lot behind of what the standards of many places in the United States.
Yeah, it's funny you say that. While you were saying that, I was sitting there going through my head about when you talk to the shuttle drivers, like on the Madison, about how many shuttles they would run on a busy weekend, and you hear them talking about running like 60 or 80 shuttles. So, although I will say I've probably had my fishing license checked more that time I was fishing with you guys in Argentina than I have in my entire fishing career.
Our fishing rangers typically are active and into checking on people and going around. So yeah, we kind of proud the way that the fisheries are protected here. I mean, sometimes they do an important job. Yeah.
Yeah. And so, we'll get to set in a minute, but, so Andy's Drifters was around for about 15 years, why don't you let folks know kind of how it evolved over that time period?
Well, it's a long process, right? I mean, since from the original company into Andes Drifter, we were basically an outfitter that was a guiding service, and we used to, and we still do prepare like trip itineraries to cover different fishery areas with different fishing styles in different parts of the season, and we make those packages that include everything, so the people coming from far have everything resolved, from lodging and meals and getting your fishing license, even supply gear when it was needed. So, but as the year continued to go over, we find the need to be in control more in everything that was involved in the process. So we incorporated the lodging portion, and we start managing our own lodges, and actually with the experiences of being on the guiding service and knowing all the area here in northern Patagonia in very deep detail, we kind of selected locations for our lodges that it was a location for lodging that it was selected to deliver a unique experience into a week program, right? So now the locations of our lodges are just to serve a special program that we have envisioned to make it unique on the zone. So we in the current days we ran 3 different lodges in the Neuquén province in northern Patagonia, and each one of these lodges is located to serve a unique location and reach specific fisheries that compound a whole different experience from each other, right, in between our 3 lodges. So like if you could do 3 different trips through each one of these lodges, and you will be fishing absolutely different waters and absolutely different fishing styles, techniques, and will be a whole different experience, even when all of these are located in northern Patagonia. Then, actually, a year after we started Andes Drifters with Kevin, we went into a big exploratory in Argentina for dorado. I love golden dorado since probably was 17 years old when I got my first golden dorado experience. So since the early days that I was guiding for trout, I thought, people that come to Argentina gotta get into a dorado fishing because it's just such a unique fish. And so back in 2009, we did this tour fishing for golden dorado in several different locations, and we met who our partner it is right now, Andres Martinez, for that runs the golden dorado operation of the company. So yeah, we incorporated another portion of operation, a whole different team, and a whole different set of guys that are specialty fishing for golden dorado. And now, we ran up there in the northeastern part of Argentina, in the Corrientes province. We ran 3 different lodges with the same concept, properties that have been in place to, for any specific experience in each one of the different fisheries that they are near from. Yeah.
Yeah, very, very neat. And so, so you did that exploratory trip kind of in the late 2000s. What made you decide within the last year or so that you wanted to merge with Piranha on the Fly?
Well, really, when we met our partner, then they were just, actually, it was kind of, a very spontaneous kind of build up, because when we met, they were guiding in the native town near Rosario, a lot closer from Buenos Aires. And it was one day outing we did with them after fishing with 3 different golden dorado operations that we really didn't like, or we really, the people that we met was not the match that we were ambition with Kevin to partner with and to run an operation. And then we really met with Marcelo Calegaris, which was, it is for years has been partnered with Andres, and talking with them, said, I fish a lot on the Corrientes province and up there in what we call the upper Paraná River, and that's water is home for the largest golden dorados anywhere, right? And so we said, okay, but we you are the kind of person we want to partner with, and so we talk. We talked that early year, and it didn't work out for 3-4 years for personal commitments they have. And then Marcelo met Andres, they partnered together, and back in 2012, we were ready to launch our first lodge in what's today Itatí Lodge in the Upper Paraná, and really, we kind of grew together. They put their name to the company running the Golden Dorado operation. It was Paraná on the Fly. And as the thing continued to grow, we were working as a unity. We were in charge of letting international anglers know about the program, and we kind of transition of the know-how of how to run the business and build a team. And they were setting up the property, putting nice up there in Itatí Lodge, and really we were working as a unity for years, but with 2 different names. So it was very confusing for people to know, well, how St. James Drifters related to Paraná on the Fly, and how we're going to communicate the uniqueness that we run all these kind of programs, but we have 2 different names. So really, we talked this for like several years, but when the pandemic hit and we were in the middle of lockdown, or right a week after we were locked down here in Argentina, we started with the brainstorming of what's the new name of the company. It gotta be, because we need an umbrella brand, a company name that represent all what we do and get us together. It was really a continuation of what we have been doing for the previous years, and that's where we decided to create Set Fly Fishing, what the company it is today, right? It was a continuation of what we've been doing since that day, right?
Yeah, very neat. And, so, it's interesting. We talked about a little bit about this when we did the prep for the interview, but I was really kind of curious if you wanted to share with folks, why you think Dorado have become such a popular species for anglers to target on the fly.
Well, I told you, I got really, really triggered and in love with Dorado when I was, almost a teenager. I was 17 years old. Dorado is it's such a unique species. A fish. I always tell people, imagine a fish that is geared up on his jaws to have the power of a shark and the speed of striking as only a barracuda can do. The Dorado, you see the big head and big jaws. They are designed to eat on sabalo. Their main prey. And sabalo is a vegetarian fish that eats algae and debris from the bottom of all the fisheries where are habitated for Dorado. And this sabalo is it's not just a fry or a prey fish. It's really, it's a prey for Dorado, but they get up to 4, 5, 6 pounds, right? So they are big fish. And the Dorado can get into a sabalo that is 5, 6 pounds and trim it in half in couple of seconds, right? I mean, you actually sometimes you see them hunting in team into schools of sabalos and rip them between two dorados, ripping apart into half the fish, and blood is on the water. Uh, and they when they decide to strike, they are so in charge. They are the apex predator in the system that sometimes they eat each other, or a juvenile or a smaller version of themselves, right? I mean, it commonly happened that you hook into a 5-6 pound dorado, and another fish that is 25, 20 pounds come and eating half the dorado you have on, right? I mean, that's how much they are in charge on that system, right? I mean, and it is such a the way they take the fly. I mean, I tell people is dorado is not super technically demanding, but is mentally demanding. It's a game of focus, right? Every strip that you're gonna take and pull your line, you gotta be focused on when you move the hand to grab the next chunk of line to strip it in, because they're gonna come as a gold lightning. You're gonna see we fish for dorado, 95% on floating line, and you see the fish coming from an ambushing, hiding position. It's just a golden light that grabs your line and just take it out of your hand. So every strip you gotta keep on focus, and they're gonna happen when you're not expecting it, and you gotta keep your rod low, because this is a strip set. It's pretty much a lot like a saltwater fish, right? I mean, even when it's a freshwater species in a freshwater, river systems, but it really undescribable. It's just comparable to nothing else. Yeah, it's an addictive game. I always prevent people. The problem with dorado is once you try it, you're gonna fish it for many many trips. So if you are not willing to do that, don't not even come try it.
And so if you're trying to basically imitate a 4 to 6 pound bait fish, what do the tackle and tactics look like when you target dorado?
Well, how you're gonna imitate a 6 pound fish, right? There's no way, right? I mean, I like to start describing the dorado for their feeding behavior and the way they feed, because that kind of set apart the dorados and a species. It's not an easy fish to catch, especially when you are going into sizes that go over 8 or 10 pounds, right? I mean, a 8-10 pound fish is when a dorado reaches to adult, right? When they're in juvenile or a smaller size, in 2 to 4 pounds, they need to be more aggressive and continuously feeding. That what a riffle rainbow will do, right? I mean, they're eating all the time. When they get into bigger, as they are such a in charge apex predator, they will only feed in certain windows, and when the conditions are to eat big and go home, right? I mean, so that's why you need a lot of focus into fishing for golden dorado. But basically, the gear you use is an 8 weight, since because of these fish are ambushing, and they're in structure. Even when in some of the environments that we fish, the water is like crystal clear. You do not see the fish until the fish is into an attacking mode. Whatever is to your fly or hunting for a natural prey, they are gonna be ambushed and blend into structure, and they're just gonna come out for your that nature of approaching to the fishing situation makes that you're casting a lot. So we only use an 8 weight. We don't go to any rod that bigger than 8 weight, because in difference to salt water in the flats where you are only casting when an actual fish that you're seeing, here you're casting like a lot, right? I mean, and so you're going to have a big fly that it has a big profile, but it's as light as possible, because you're going to be casting a lot, and you want to conserve your shoulder through the journey, right? So 8 weight and a floating line, typically, I say that the most famous the golden dorado fly is called the Andino deceiver. The typical Andino deceiver, it was designed to be fishing in the lower sections of the Paraná, where the water is dirtier than any of the fisheries that we fish. So it had that original Andino deceiver has a very thick color of mother head with a lead eye. Here, the way we like to build our long deceivers are a big hook. First to start, you need a big hook. Typically, our favorite hook is a Gamakatsu SL12 and 4.0 and 6.0. So they're big hooks to give a good navigation to that fly. And then there are saddle feathers, long ones. A little bit of bucktail and a little bit of pico hurl, a little bit of bright. It could be one or the other. And then we need to do that mallard head, but basically it's a very sparse collard over a set of chain eyes. So it's very, very light. Doesn't have any added weight. It's heavy for the big hook and a little bit balanced on the head for these eyes of chain. And that's the typical deceiver that we'll use. Typically up to 6 or 8 inches long, so long fly, but easy to cast, loads very little water. We don't use that typical big musky streamers that load a lot of water because we're gonna be casting a lot, and yeah, that's a typical deceiver. We use in some of our fisheries we use a lot of surface patterns like mices and large crease flies or T-walks with foam heads that are kind of sort of popping or giving the trace on the surface of the water. So that's kind of the basic gear that flies and rods, and you use a tropical line because it's a tropical environment, right? I mean, so it has to be a tropical A-weight. I mean, there are very good design of specific fly lines with they have enough of the weight forward torpedo that they're really a lot of help to turn over the big flies. So the different brands have come with special Shangle or Dorado version lines that specifically designed for these big flies. But any kind of a power way forward torpedo saltwater line, it will make the work.
Got it. And so, you made it really clear we're going to be casting a lot, but, what does a typical day fishing for Dorado with Set look like?
Well, it is, as I was telling you, we have 3 different locations that we fish for Dorado, and the type of fishing and the type of technique we use in each of the destination kind of set the day standards. We, like in Itatí Lodge in the big river, where we fish for like some of the really biggest Dorados on earth there, we are like from the rooms at the lodge, we are only like 30 yards to the dock. So you walk, you get into the boat, and in 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 15 minutes, depending where you're going, you're right into fishing. So it's very easy commute to get to be actually fishing. And there we fish like very early in the morning. Like we get into the water with the very first clarity to be able to cast with the really first light already being in fishing situation. And then we come back for lunch and have a break on by noon with the air conditioned. Typically it's a tropical environment, and then to be rested and full of energy for the sunset time, because this really, especially in this fishery where we're targeting for these really huge Dorados, those beginning and end of the day times are like the best moment where they're going to be likely to be active, these monster fish. And so there it is in the stream of the days where we really need to go. But then when we go to the Iberá wetlands, we've been fortunate like in 2018 to be selected by the Argentina government, really the provincial government in Corrientes, to be the solo outfitter operating in the vast, huge pieces of water of the land that Douglas Tompkins, the founder of North Face, but now with the Rewilding Project and his foundation, he buy from private property and donated to the government to create a national park. And we were selected to be the outfitter working on this as the only operation in this huge water system. Here you get into an access and go into a very integrated set of channels and lagoons and go deeper and deeper in the system. So we go out there for an outing all day. We leave in the morning, whatever, 8:30 from the lodge, and we get in. Actually, we have stable camps and cabins that we have built inside the reservation. And so you go out for 2 or 3 days of fishing, overnighting inside on the deep part of the wilderness and with no human presence. So very different one destination from the other. And this past year, we have added the third destination at Chetu Cabaña Esteros, which is another wetland system, but this is a spillover ramification of the Paraná, the middle Paraná River section, and it's over 100 miles of water that gets filtrated into this floodplain area that is called the Isoro wetlands. We have located Chetu Cabaña Estero right in the heart of the Isoro wetland, which is by nature a big nursery area for Dorado. I don't know if, I'm going to tell you, I'm going to extend me a little bit, make a pause here and tell you a little bit of about the Dorado spawning system, because it will make sense up there in the to the whole story, right? Up there in the Itatí Lodge, the first of the destinations that I was telling you, it is the area where a big migration of Dorados coming from the whole Paraná system come in the late spring and early summer for spawn season. But the spawning, it really happens in a way that is only successful when there is a flooding or really high water level, because the Dorado, migrates and accumulates. First, it really, before the Dorado, is the Sábalo that is accumulating and coming together in the middle of the river. The Sábalo starts spawning. The way they spawn is on the middle of the river in the current. The female of the Sábalo gets kind of belly up and swims in circle, making a very low noise, like croaking of frogs, but lower. And the males of a Sábalo are kind of crossing their bellies and rubbing the bellies to stimulate the spawning. After we've seen this happening, we're talking, the concentration of fish is just phenomenal. It's kind of like millions and millions of individuals. We're seeing this spawning of Sábalo happening for like 2 miles length of the river, per probably over half a mile of wide. The Paraná is the fourth largest flow of water in the entire world, right? So it's twice the Mississippi. It's across sometimes 4 miles. So this huge mass of fish spawning in the middle of the river. And after we've seen this for a day happening, the Dorado starts spawning on the perimeter of that, right? And sort of the same deal. Like the female Dorado makes like a whale. The really big Dorados are females, and the males are smaller. So these female Dorados are coming out of the water like a whale, kind of have their body out of the water, and you see 2 or 3 big male Dorados are rubbing their belly again, like to stimulate that spawning. And it's funny because while they're their first and main target for food, when this is happening, you don't see Dorados that are crashing into Sábalos that are so vulnerable in that situation, right? It is like something sacred is happening, and they respect each other. And the reason they're genetically designed to do it that way because of reason, right? I mean, they spawn, and the eggs of the Dorados are released, and when they hatch in the middle of the river, the fright of they really get released and inseminated in the middle of the river, but they need that flood level of water because they need to be drifted into the flood plains where they're going to hatch and they're going to be able to survive afterwards. So instead of having a spawning bed, they're going to have to be drifted out to the flooded areas of the side of the main river to be able to survive. And the curiosity, it is that the Dorado, when it hatches the egg, the fright of the Dorado has a beetling sac, like the trout has it, that it lasts for like 48 days. The beetling sac is a food reserve that allows the fish to survive without having to eat. In trout is 48 days. In dorado is 48 hours. So they need to be quickly in these flood plain areas because they're going to start eating on larvae and bugs and some small organism. But as early as like 2 or 3 weeks old, they're going to start eating on the fry of sábalo because they spawning on the same time, and as early as 2 weeks they become their main food, right? I mean, and so coming back to the history, the Isoro wetland, our third lodge, is one of these floodplains, this big marsh area. It is a natural nurse for dorado. So it has bazillions of dorados that are growing in sizes between 2 to 5, 6, 7 pounds. And so that becomes the Chetuca Baniasteros, the ideal destinations for those that are breaking into golden dorado fishing to get into numbers and get trained with that strip setting. So every one of our destinations is a complete different environment. The fishing gets achieved with a very different technique and a whole different experience from each other. And because of the nature of the sometimes unpredictable or changeable conditions to the fishery, and because of the behavior of dorado moving into the river system to different locations that sometimes is more or less available to be able to fly fish it, we have decided to design our week of fishing split between 2 of these 3 destinations. So we split the week in 3 days on one lodge and 3 days on the other, and we kind of make the call before the trip which one of the destinations we're going to fish to hit the best fishing conditions. So that's the uniqueness of our program. It haven't really been another golden dorado program in the market that has that degree of flexibility to chasing what's really fishing best on the available conditions of this region, right?
Really interesting. And so do you predominantly fish to structure, or are there sight fishing opportunities as well?
Well, again, the sight fishing opportunities anywhere on Dorado, it is when the fish are currently attacking or going for prey. But in many times when they're before that happening, when they're waiting for the opportunity, they're ambushing and hiding. So you're fishing structure because of the nature they feed on. And it's very occasionally when you can sight fish into a fish that you're seeing into a hunting mode that are crashing bay fish or something like that.
Got it. And, I know that there are Dorado kind of spread out in South America and Central America. How is Dorado fishing in Argentina different from other countries?
Well, it is the design. It's determined because of the morphology of the structure of the rivers. Like the other big destinations today for golden dorado fishing is Bolivia and the streams on the Shango. And really, the type of streams where golden dorado fishing in Bolivia it attracts so many people because it's so beautiful environments and reminds, like, everybody's in fly fishing, or like a big percentage of people in fly fishing have started as a trout angler, right? I mean, and some of those dorado streams in Bolivia, they remind everybody, they really look like a beautiful trout stream, right? But the behavior of the fish and the fishing style, it doesn't have to do anything what you will do trout fishing because they are dorado, right? I mean, so everything that I described before applies into the smaller stream. And the dorado, by nature, being that apex predator, it is a very sensitive fish that can perceive anything on a stream. When you translate that into a small trout-sized stream, it makes the fishing in those pristine, clear streams to be like super difficult. I mean, like the movement when you spook even the smaller bait fish or a school of sábalos, the dorado make you feel your presence because of the disturbance that you are creating on the environment. So that makes the fishing even more challenging when you get into the smaller streams, and also the nature of the mountain streams. It determines a lot of physical efforts because there are big rock boulders areas, and you gotta walk and hike from a pool to the next pool, right? I mean, all our fisheries and the 3 different locations that that we fish in Argentina are done from skiffs. Bigger ones that we have where we have a main quota, remote control, than and smaller ones where we push ball and it's only one angler on the bow fishing on the Ibera wetlands. But it's all from the comfort of the boat and where you can easily ride back in a couple of the destination to the lodge, but where the whole general experience is a lot more physically, enjoyable or a little easier physically demanding than hiking up in a mountain stream. So the main differences are determined by the nature of the geography where these fisheries are located.
Got it. And what's your kind of typical dorado season? I mean, when does it run? If people wanted to fish with you, when should they plan to come to Argentina?
Well, it's because of the nature of the three locations that we fish. Really, we can fish for golden dorado year round, and really with good results. If you are gonna ask me when is kind of the best time for all the fisheries combined, we really love to talk about the shoulder season. And the shoulder season means like springs and falls opposite here. But, that time of the year when it's enough warm, but it's not the middle of summer that gets too warm because, in our fisheries in the middle of summer, it could be like fishing on the Florida Keys in July, right? I mean, it's humid and it's very warm. So the shoulder season still gives you that warm temperatures that there are like, because it's by nature a tropical fish, but it makes a little more enjoyable in weather. And we're talking from mid-September till mid-December, and then from late February through early May kind of thing. That's kind of when the really peak season of our fisheries are.
Got it. And, the great thing, we haven't even touched on this, but you've really built out your ecotourism and your hunting options because you've also got Wow Argentina and Andino Hunt. And I think when I fished with you guys, you were offering red stack hunting, but you've got tons of stuff and all kinds of outings, particularly if someone wants to bring someone who doesn't want to fish. You want to let folks know a little bit about those?
Sure, absolutely. Yeah. Some of our lodges specialty are like having couples and families because of the offer that we have right there at the lodges with a unique game of different opportunities and activities that will make the vacation for a non-angling person to be as enjoyable that a hardcore angler good. So they're really, really unique. But then at WoW Argentina, what we do is really design programs that are tailor-made and thought out for each of our guests to really have a unique experience exploring the highlights of the different areas of the country, whether it's in glacier fills and in Tierra del Fuego or visiting the wine country in Mendoza, just exploring a couple of days with great guides and absorbing the culture in Buenos Aires or seeing the Iguazu Falls. Argentina is a huge country with a whole different game of ecosystems and scenery, right? I mean, you think about Argentina from south to north is almost as long as the United States from east to west coast. So many people do not really have, the meanings of how big Argentina it is, but it's really the eighth largest world in territory surface, right? I mean, so it's a very extended country that you have a lot to uniqueness to see and discover, plus the whole cultural, the gastronomy in Argentina. We're very influential by the Italian and Spanish cuisine. So eating and our gastronomy is a big part of our culture. So if you enjoy, the gastronomy, the culinary side of the travel experience, you're going to get pleased in Argentina, right? Of course, big in the asado and cooking on the open fire, but big in wines, we have such a great variety of wines. And, beside all these unique trips, we tried every one of our trips, whatever is golden dorado or trout, to be a culture and immersion, right? I mean, beside to expose you to really cool fishing opportunities, really we try to that fishing trip to be just more than just a great fishing trip, but that you get a little bit of that culture of the country from the food and the wine, but also by bringing entertainment in. And we have people that comes to dance tango on some of the folkloric music and play instrument and sing. And so we try to build on a lot of add-ons that makes the whole experience the whole trip entire experience, right? I mean, and so on the other side, as you mentioned, we right now we kind of up the game from we have been running red stag hunting since that early as you were here, like quite a few years ago, and we have now been running our own entire ranch that we manage for stag hunting, and it's been 8 years we're managing this 30,000 acre ranch where we have an amazing wild population of red stag, and it really is a very, very unique program, and that we have many people that repeat and are regular in this with this trip.
Yeah, and you've got waterfowl, you've got upland bird hunting, right, and you've got dove hunting too, right?
Yeah, we right here in Patagonia where we do stag hunting, there's opportunity to quail hunt. We have Californian quail that is being introduced and they're wild here in the area for many decades, and then we set up opportunities to dove hunt and waterfowl duck hunting in other locations of Argentina and doves too. That we can put it together as an addition of any of our regular programs.
Yeah, and it's great too, right? Because people have to remember that the seasons are reversed, and so if you really want to hunt, but you can't hunt in the United States, you can fly down to Argentina and hunt and fish.
Yeah, absolutely. The opportunities are countless, and actually, we try to give the people excuse to come back to see us with different programs each time. So that's kind of the vision of what Set Fly Fishing and our other companies, are. Right?
Yeah, very neat. And so if folks wanted to get more information about your trips and your other offerings, where should they go?
Well, it is, you can reach us at our website at setflyfishing.com, or you can reach us and follow us on the social media platforms and Instagram, especially at Set Fly Fishing. Each one of the lodges have their own Instagram. And you're welcome to to get on the phone or meet us at one of the presentations. Right, we are gonna be, and we regularly are traveling across the United States and presenting at local shops and clubs. So everyone is welcome to come and talk about fishing. We always like that.
Yeah, and I suspect we'll see you on the fly fishing show circuit in 2024, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we're already scheduled to do some of the biggest shows, all the same that we did last year. So we'll be in Jersey and Atlanta and Denver and Pleasanton, and we're working on a couple more that they're gonna be closed down on the next few weeks. So.
Oh, very neat. And Gustavo, before I let you go this evening, is there anything else you'd like to share with our listeners?
Well, I want to invite everybody that hasn't been for a visit in Argentina. We're very friendly country with a high degree of hospitality, a very influential for European culture. So don't be afraid. I mean, it's Southern Hemisphere, it's South America, but it's a very friendly country that will receive you with open arms, and where you will come to really build friends and memories for life.
Yeah, and it's so easy to get to, like we talked about before. No jet lag, fly to Buenos Aires, transfer to the airport and fly south, and you're an hour ahead and you don't feel horrible.
Yeah, absolutely. It's, as you said, it's an easy commute. It's a long flight, but it's overnight and it's no time difference. Plus, what we do actually, we have this travel, agency department inside our own company that from the time that you start asking about what you can do, this time frame, what the program that you recommend, we're gonna be a hand-on experience. We're gonna assure you have a hassle-free experience through the time you leave your home till after the trip and getting back home. You're gonna be hands-on, accompany all the way in every single stage. Make it very, very easy. You can travel light. We can provide you gear, so make a whole full enjoyment experience.
Very, very neat. And Gustavo, I really appreciate you spending some time with me this evening, and hopefully I'll get to see you on your upcoming trip to the States.
Yeah, absolutely, Marvin. Thanks you for having me. It's always a pleasure to talk a little bit about history and fishing. So anytime. Thanks to all the audience. Yeah.
Absolutely. Take care. Well, folks, I hope you enjoyed that as much as we enjoyed bringing it to you. Again, if you like the podcast, please tell a friend, and please subscribe and leave us a rating and review in the podcatcher of your choice. Tight lines, everybody.